Niners are 5-6. Why? What is the number one reason that the Niners are 5-6 this year?
Sage, I mean, the first thing I could think about, God hates the 49ers. I mean, everything that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong. Shanahan can't scheme up a play. Our wide receivers who we paid $25 million can't break man coverage. I mean, I don't hear that at all throughout the NFL. Teams play zone throughout the league because if you put a wide receiver one-on-one, he's going to break it. And we can't even scheme that open. Injuries across the board. I mean, I can't name one legit player on the Niners that hasn't been banged up this year. I mean, we thought Fred has been the healthiest guy out of the badass players on the Niners. We just found out he has a broken ankle, a fractured ankle. So if I had to pin it on one thing, God hates the 49ers.
No, I mean, it's just, dude, it's just bad planning, bad everything. You kick the can down the road enough, your bills are going to come due. And this is kind of what we're seeing. You're an old roster. You kind of have just like old talents. I mean, what happened to all the Pro Bowlers on this team? What happened to all the All Pros?
They don't
injured. Exist.
They're injured.
They don't exist. I mean, that's what happens when you get old. It's the NFL, baby. Like, that's what happens. You got to adapt. And the 49ers aren't adapting.
You know what it is, too?
Go
also,
ahead.
like, you bring up how these injuries happen, but, like, then you're paying, like, everybody so much money, especially guys like Brandon Ayuk, all these offensive guys where you're Kyle Shanahan. You're built on the zone run scheme. In 2019, we didn't need any big wide receivers. Now they're getting injured, and now you don't have depth throughout the roster. So now when you're losing all these key pieces, you're putting in, like, practice squad level talent on the D-line, and now you're just getting gashed. So it's just like one problem's just causing a whole bunch of other problems down the road.
Is it possible that there's like a mental aspect in the sense that like last year they really believed it was their year from the get? As soon as they lost to Philly in the NFC Championship game because Brock went down, they're like, no, we're better than Philly, we're better than Kansas City. All we need is Brock to be healthy. We'll go improve it. And they were driven. They were 5-0. They got the number 1 seed, and they lost again. And I feel like it's hard to overstate the emotional toll that's taken on them because now they can't have that like, well, we're the best team anymore. They know they're not. And I feel like this year they've kind of moved the entire time like they know it's not their year. Like, yeah, I mean, how else do you explain all these different players going for the money? Like, you don't do that if you think the Super Bowl window's open. And I feel like they know they missed it. They're old. It was exhausting. Firing Steve Wilkes and replacing him with Nick Sorensen didn't work. And there's nothing better about this team than last year. You didn't swap out the quarterback. You didn't change anything other than the defensive coordinator. It's just an older version of a team that's drained.
Yeah, I mean, Grant, I know you're an Oakland guy. You weren't around San Francisco that much, but you could feel it in the city. I mean, before that Super Bowl, it seemed destined. Like, we had a Chiefs team that was coming in. I'm sorry, that's the worst Chiefs team I've ever seen. And, like, a lot of people didn't even think they were going to beat the Dolphins in the wildcard round. They beat us. The Niners are just humming the entire way through. I mean, you had that 3-game losing streak, but except for that and the Baltimore game, that was one of the best teams, I think, of the past 5 years. One of the best. I mean, I'm not an analytics guy, but one of the best analytic offense teams of all time. And then you blow it. I mean, you blow the Super Bowl. This is probably, the 4th or 5th deep playoff run that they had the past 6 years. You're adding up all these games. And then you don't get it done when everything was set up for you to do it. In OT, you were up 10 again. You fumble a punt. It's just like so many things happened and they didn't get it done. So, yeah, they're just tired. They're tired and drained emotionally and physically.
I think from the mental aspect, too, you kind of see it. Like, there's no swagger with this team. Like, we talk about it all the time, but they used to be just like the scariest team off the bus, hard hitters. Like, they're gonna take your will. They're a finesse team. Like we said, they don't want to knock you out. They want to break dance with you. Like they don't want to like try and fight you. They want to get soft with you. And like you see it, they're getting gashed. And they're losing that will. I mean, when you get your pants pulled down like that in Green Bay, you can't stop the run. Like, how do you have confidence in yourself? And you see it with how the players talk, how they carry themselves. Like, I don't see the boombox videos anymore. I don't see like that swag that they have. You see Debo on his podcast talking like, even if we lose this week, like, when have you ever seen the Niners like just concede something like that? Like, accept, oh, we might lose a game. Like, it's never been that. They've always thought that they were the top class of the NFL. So you kind of like the writing's on the wall. You see it like here and there, like maybe they are losing confidence. And once that happens, like you kind of lose the locker room.
Right, because when they lost the first Super Bowl back in 2019, 2020, they could tell themselves like, oh, we're a young team. We're ahead of schedule. It was Jimmy's fault. And they believe that. And then you lose the next one. And it's like, well, we just lost it the same way. We were winning again. We gave it up again. We had a different quarterback. He's young. He's not going anywhere. Like, we're old. It's not guaranteed that we're going to get back here. And I think we've all seen Kyle Shanahan's pattern. Everyone knows that he's lost some big games that he was leading in the second half. They know it. And I wonder, it's like every time they're in a close game now, they melt down. The one close game they won this year, Debo punched the freaking long snapper during the game as they were winning. Like, it's almost like they're like, okay, here we go again. This is what we do. And it's like, I don't know why we do it. It could be Kyle's fault. It could be our fault, but it's our fate. And yeah, like once it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going to lose close games, you're done.
Yeah,
or you're 5-6.
You can feel the sideline get tight now. Like even in that Seattle game, the first time we played them in Seattle, they ended up, Geno Smith, you got that pick, but you can feel it. It felt like the roof was like collapsing on the
same with the Dallas game. That actually became a game. It should have been over.
So you just see it like they've gone in their own heads, that swagger. There was a quote Purdy had before the year. He said, the thing I want to improve in my game most is I want to be like Brady. Like when I'm up 10, I want to put the game away, but it's gone in the complete opposite direction. Now, when the Niners are up 10, you're almost fearful. You just know something bad's coming because they don't believe in themselves. I don't know if it's a head coach. They don't believe in the coach. They don't believe in the play call, but there's something there.
There's a lack of belief. And I think it's interesting. A lot of people be like, it's just the injuries this year, man. It's just the injuries. Don't overreact. Maybe, man. I mean, they were struggling when Brandon Ayuk was out there. And when you say injuries, it's like, is it injuries or age? Like, is Christian McCaffrey injured or is he older? Is Debo Samuel injured or is he just fading? Fred Warner for sure injured. Nick Bosa too. There's a lot of that. But, man, it seems like they do have some talent, and it seems like they're still underperforming despite the injuries to me.
I mean, the vibes are just completely off. The vibes are just completely off. And I don't know. I don't know if it's a talent thing, if it's an injury thing. Maybe it's just a Super Bowl hangover. I mean, we didn't want to think about it coming into this year. You don't want to just assume that, okay, you came off of a loss in a Super Bowl. You're probably in for a down year. But that's just what we've seen for the past 20 years, okay? We saw it in 2020. It was an even worse version. I mean, we'll see how we finish off the year, but it's looking like we're going to at least be around the playoff discussion. It could just be a situation where the players are drained. Those extra games really did add up on you. You had a couple other injuries, and it's just a Super Bowl hangover, and there's just nothing that you can really do about it. All you can really hope for is to retool and get set up for next year.
What do you think about Bill Kennedy's question? How many years to get back on top?
Depends on what we do in the draft, like how you retool, because if you just try to roll out Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel again next year, pay them $50 million, 5, 6, like I just don't see a way back with this 49ers team. You're going to have to go back to that 2019 setup, especially if you want to play Brock. I know we're going to get into this discussion a little bit later, but you're probably going to have to pay Brock Purdy big money. You're not going to have an all-pro level or all-pro level quarterback for $980K anymore. You're going to have to get a little bit realistic, build through the lines. Don't give your wide receivers $50 million, especially when they're not even the best one on your team.
I think my response is what's on top, like losing in the Super Bowl, or are you talking about winning a Super Bowl? Because I mean, we're like 30 years removed from that. So it could be another 30 years. It depends on the regime, like how are they going to build the team up?
Yeah. They haven't been on top since 1994.